Buckingham Palace, the iconic royal residence in the heart of London and a symbol of British heritage for centuries, stood tall and proud as one of the most visited landmarks in the world, but on a fateful morning a series of structural weaknesses hidden deep within its foundations began to show their devastating effect, leading to what many historians and citizens would later call the Great Palace Collapse. For years, engineers had quietly warned about the aging infrastructure of the massive palace, built originally in 1703 and expanded multiple times, yet little was done to address the strain of modern tourist traffic, heavy renovations, and the impact of London's shifting underground water tables. On that morning, thousands of visitors had gathered outside the gates, watching the ceremonial changing of the guard, when a sudden, low rumble echoed across St. James's Park, startling the crowd. At first, most thought it was distant construction or the underground trains passing, but the vibrations intensified, and the gilded balconies and outer walls of Buckingham Palace began to tremble violently. Gasps filled the air as cracks spread like lightning veins across the white stone facade, and within moments, massive chunks of masonry broke away, crashing to the ground in a thunderous roar that sent guards and tourists alike scattering in panic. The chaos escalated as the central section of the palace roof gave way, causing a chain reaction of structural collapse that tore through the historic halls, shattering chandeliers and crushing centuries-old artworks, tapestries, and furniture that had survived wars and fires. Witnesses described it as an apocalyptic scene in the heart of London. Dust clouds billowed into the sky, drowning the air with the acrid scent of debris and burning wood, while the piercing alarms of emergency systems shrieked. The Queen's Gallery, which housed priceless royal art, was among the first to be destroyed, followed by the East Wing where official state receptions were often held. Thousands of bystanders stood frozen in shock as the palace's grand dome toppled, collapsing into the quadrangle in a deafening crash that shook the ground for blocks around. Police and first responders rushed to the scene, cordoning off the area, while helicopters circled overhead, capturing live footage that was broadcast worldwide within minutes, sending shockwaves across nations that had long viewed Buckingham Palace as an unshakable symbol of stability and tradition. As the dust settled, the full extent of the devastation became tragically clear. Dozens of palace staff who had been inside at the time of the collapse were trapped beneath rubble, and heroic rescue teams worked around the clock to pull survivors from the wreckage. The royal family, who fortunately were away attending engagements at Windsor Castle, remained physically unharmed but emotionally devastated, as centuries of history and heritage had been reduced to ruins in a single morning. Global leaders sent condolences, cultural organizations pledged support, and millions of Britons mourned not only the physical destruction of the palace but also what it represented, the fragility of even the most enduring institutions. Historians called it an unprecedented cultural catastrophe, likening it to the burning of the Library of Alexandria or the fall of the Twin Towers in terms of its symbolic impact on the global stage. In the following days, the British government declared a national emergency, and thousands gathered in candlelight vigils outside the wreckage site, singing hymns and laying flowers for what they felt was the death of an era. Yet from this destruction also rose determination. Engineers and architects from around the world converged on London, pledging to rebuild Buckingham Palace not just as a replica of the past, but as a stronger, more resilient structure that would stand for future generations. While some argued that the collapse symbolized the end of the monarchy itself, others viewed it as a chance for renewal, to modernize an institution weighed down by centuries of tradition. In Parliament, heated debates raged over whether to restore the palace as it was, or to create a new, symbolic structure that reflected the future of Britain. Donations poured in from across the Commonwealth, and plans for an international design competition were quickly announced. Amid the sorrow, there was hope, and amid the ruins, there was resilience. Londoners, still haunted by the sight of their beloved palace collapsing before their eyes, rallied together with the same spirit that had seen them through the Blitz decades earlier. The fall of Buckingham Palace would forever remain a scar on the nation's memory, but also a reminder that even the mightiest of monuments can fall and that what truly endures is not the stone and marble, but the spirit of the people who rebuild from the ashes. In the weeks that followed the catastrophic collapse, London was transformed into a city of mourning and reflection, but also one of fierce debate and resilience. The site of Buckingham Palace, once bustling with tourists and royal ceremonies, was now cordoned off by steel fences, guarded day and night as rescue teams continued to dig through the rubble in search of artifacts, documents, and personal effects that might have survived. Archaeologists, conservators, and engineers worked side by side, cataloging every shard of stone and splinter of wood, treating the ruins as though they were the remains of an ancient civilization. Historians lamented the loss of treasures like the throne room, the gilded state ballroom, and priceless heirlooms that had been passed down through the royal family for generations, many of which were now believed to be lost forever. Across the nation, communities organized fundraisers and memorial events, schools held special assemblies to teach children about the importance of preserving history, and churches rang their bells in solemn remembrance. The psychological weight of the collapse was immense. Britons felt as if a part of their national identity had been torn from them. Yet, amid this sorrow, ordinary citizens became extraordinary. Volunteers poured in from all across the UK to assist emergency crews, offering food, shelter, and moral support. A popular phrase began spreading across social media and headlines: "We are the palace now," a symbolic reminder that while stone and marble had crumbled, the true strength of Britain lay in its people. As reconstruction plans took shape, tensions grew between tradition and modernity, between preserving the legacy of the monarchy and adapting to the demands of a changing society. Some politicians and activists argued that the fall of Buckingham Palace was a sign that the monarchy had outlived its purpose, pushing for the site to be transformed into a public cultural center or museum. Others passionately defended the idea of rebuilding it stone for stone, insisting that to erase the palace would be to erase centuries of history that bound the Commonwealth together. Architects presented ambitious designs. Some envisioned a modern, glass-walled palace that symbolized transparency and progress. Others proposed a neoclassical replica that would restore the grandeur of the original. Heated debates filled newspapers and parliament halls, but amidst the arguments, one truth remained clear: Buckingham Palace, whether rebuilt or reimagined, had become more than a royal residence. It was now a global symbol of loss, resilience, and renewal. As cranes and construction crews prepared to clear the ruins, the world watched London with bated breath, waiting to see what would rise from the ashes of this tragedy. And while the old palace would forever remain a memory etched into the minds of millions, the collapse itself had ignited something profound, a reminder that history is not static, that nations are shaped as much by their losses as by their triumphs, and that sometimes it is in the rubble of yesterday where the blueprints of tomorrow are found.